A big tournament here in India, guys, and I want to welcome you to the desk. Obviously, Blair, wouldn't be an Indian tournament without you here on the analyst desk. Daredevil coming all the way from Egypt. How are we feeling, guys?
Yeah, good to be here.
Well, I think you're struggling a little bit with the food so far, but
Oh,
it's
yeah,
been good. It's been
definitely.
great for me. I like the food, so.
I will definitely say that I have struggled a little bit with the food, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Now, obviously, we've had the Dota 2 stuff all in the morning. That's been great, but now I think this is what we've been all waiting for, right? The Counter-Strike. Let's start getting stuck in. Let's start talking about this. I want to touch on this for you a little bit, Blair, because obviously this is your home country. Can you just give me a bit of context as to what this event means for India and for Counter-Strike in India in general?
I think it's been great, like, especially last year we saw kind of the rise of esports, like when it comes to bigger events happening in India. I think DreamHack Winter, DreamHack Mumbai, which happened right after DreamHack Winter last year, was kind of like the bigger one. We had Bravado coming in, and that's when we had this team was playing up next, actually, Signify, who actually pulled off an upset, and they managed to take, I think, 3 maps over like 2 best-of-3s, and that's when people start like taking notice and being like, hey, maybe we can do some damage, maybe we can make things happen, and people are starting to believe in that. And looking at India as a country, you got to realize over time, it is inevitably going to be a pretty big esports nation. A lot of people who play video games, a lot of people who are starting to get interested in what we all love, that is esports, right? And events like this, like events like Cobx, I think this lays the this kind of lays the foundation for what we could, possibly build in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a very exciting event to be here as well. I'm coming all the way from Australia. You've come from Egypt. It must be kind of cool for you to be able to come
Similar heat, though.
have a look and see how things are going here.
Yeah, I really love India so far. I mean, it's a bit hotter than where I come from, but it's definitely very similar in a lot of the culture as well. So I really appreciate being here. It's just a little bit too spicy, maybe, for me.
Maybe. All right, let's start talking a little bit more in detail about this event. Obviously, we've got 6 teams coming from all around Asia. Now, I think that's fantastic as well. I love watching Asian Counter-Strike. MVP PK coming up in this first match that we're going to be watching. Definitely one of those teams that we're going to be having to have a look at, one of the international invites. Yep. Greyhound over in Group B as well, another one of the teams I think that's very, very interesting to take a look at in this particular tournament. And obviously, Blair, you touched on Signify a little bit there as well. They're, I would say, at least coming into this tournament, looking like India's best team. Is that a fair statement?
I think, yeah, you would say that they are one of the best teams. The best other team being Entity Esports, who are not here because they lost Signify, I think, in like 1917, the best-of-3 finals, right?
Yep.
We have Global Esports playing as well, but they are kind of like the big underdogs here. Signify, on the other hand, yeah, they haven't really had much time to boot camp and whatnot. And just looking on paper, you see MVP, you see Greyhound, you see even Alpha Red from Thailand. They're a pretty good dark horse as well. And then you have Boot Dreamscape, who've been looking really solid right now. So looking on paper, you're like, yeah, Signify really doesn't stand a chance, to be very honest, although they have Crazy Guy who's been playing out of his mind, pretty well-known player in Southeast Asia. But the thing is, if you look at this team, they have managed to beat Bravado, who had reached the finals of DreamHack Winter just a couple of weeks prior, late last year. They beat them 2-0 very convincingly, and in the finals they did take 1 map, although they finally fell flat in the final map. So this is a team who can do damage. They can be surprising, and I think the one advantage they have is there's not much information you have on them. Like if you look at HLTV, the previous game played was DreamHack, wasn't DreamHack Mumbai. After that, I've played a few online games, but there's not much data to really work with. So yeah, like on paper, they're gonna struggle a little bit over here, but they could potentially make things a little bit more interesting.
All right, Daredevil, I want your thoughts as well on just not necessarily this first matchup in a sense, but the tournament in general. How are you feeling about the teams that are coming in? Is there anyone I think that...
I mean, I sort of agree with him in a way that Signify, at least from what I can tell, they're basically the favorites for the hometown. And they, I believe that they would still benefit from the home crowd in a way.
Okay.
But I'm not really sure how they would handle the pressure. I mean, you are having cheers and everything, but in the same time, you have to perform for your home country, so
yeah,
that might affect them.
Well, let's not waste too much more time talking and having fun on the desk. We obviously need to introduce our 2 teams to the stage, starting off, of course, with the best team from Korea, and maybe the best team at this tournament. We'll find out over the weekend, but of course, it is MVP PK. All right, so obviously MVP PK introduced onto the stage, looking cool, calm, and collected, but still one more team to introduce, and maybe the home crowd favorite as well for this tournament. Please welcome to the stage, Signify. Well, a few more cheers, I think, for Signify there than for MVP. Kind of gave me a bit of a goosebump as they
now
walked
I'm
down.
hyped.
Obviously, a little bit hyped there for those boys. Now, let's start talking. Let's deep dive into this game. Obviously, we've got Signify, we've got MVP both ready. Now, I think I alluded to it with that introduction for MVP PK, but coming into this tournament, Daredevil, they have looked like one of the better teams. Now, the one question for me, though, is roster changes for MVP. Does that sort of throw a bit of a spanner in the works? What are your opinions? Are they really the best team coming into this, or...?
I believe so, but in the same time, they might be struggling in a way, but I think they're still the heavy favorites. We have to consider that. Even with, you can clearly tell they're used to the stage as well. So I believe at the end of the day, this is their sort of game coming in, but we'll have to see if Signify could really pipe up, especially considering they're not that old of a lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a bit of talk as well about MVP, Blair, with this new roster. Some people are saying, okay, the old guard was where their strength was, and some are saying these new guys coming into the roster are going to kind of elevate MVP to a new level. What's your opinion on that?
The interesting thing is, right, this is the meeting of the two best Korean teams. So I've wanted to see this lineup for a long time. The last time we saw MVP and Gosu on LAN was at the minors in Katowice for IEM, where MVP came fourth. Gosu had a very good run, but they choked at the very end, and it kind of fell apart. But immediately, these guys are, all right, enough's enough. Like Solo, I mean, I love the guy, a legend, probably the most decorated Counter-Strike player. I mean, if you look at 1.6 primarily from Asia, right? Now he's left, and also I think Glow has left as well. So the old guard is slowly making way for the new guard, and now you have HSK. This guy was a star in Gosu. He's the in-game leader. He's an opera as well. The star player for Gosu. He's come in. They've gotten stacks from Gosu as well. Now you have Zine. You have Zeta as well. 4-star players, and you still have the veteran in the name of Zeph, who is. By the way, he's been playing for a pretty long time as well, right? With the MVP guys, the Solo and everyone else. And you also have Termi, who's also one of the old guard who is still the coach. So this is, I think, the perfect element. Like earlier, it used to be like 50% and 60% veterans and like just a couple of new young blood in the team. And now it's more firepower. And these guys have been playing together for such a long time now. I think this team is a team to watch out. Now, you might talk about Tai Lu, you might talk about Vici, you might even bring up Greyhound over here, but MVP, just mark my words, the next few months, they're going to be a team to beat in this region.
I have to agree with you on that one. Now let's start talking a bit more about Signify, though. Obviously, their opponents. I think it's fair to say coming into this, they're the underdogs.
Yeah, you can't really deny that. I mean, considering their opponent, they might be a little bit intimidated, but in a way, they are the favorite team here. And if that Kraken really hype them up, I think they have a chance. It'll be tough, but I think they have a chance.
Well, it's best of one, so there is always a chance. Blair, is the crowd going to be a factor, or does Signify even need the crowd?
It's interesting about Signify. Look at his lineup, right? You have a German guy, YV, right? He plays in more of the tier 3 region. He plays with the likes of Pride, Ego, not like below Ego, for example. Right? But he's come to this country. He was a part of the old Optic India lineup. Despite what happened with that, he's a reason right now we have like 3 Indian teams who have like various people coming in from Europe. Like we have Entity, who've got 2 Serbians and a Serbian coach. We have Global, who's playing here, another Indian team with 2 Polish players as well. So this team, YB coming in, he is being the X factor for Indian Counter-Strike. You cannot deny that fact. Then you have Crazy Guy, the Vietnamese player, the first Asian player to be known in CSGO back in Cluj-Napoca when he played with his team Skyred, where they had some pretty close games back then. I think it was against Vexed or something, right? So star players right there. Then you have Deathmaker, a very unknown player, very young star. He has been known. I've spoken to some of the teams who've scrimmed against these guys, and they're like, these guys are literally like Asian CS, but on steroids. Literally just hold W, just shock and
the next
awe,
top 5
and
team?
just, yeah, basically, I wouldn't say top 5 team. I would disagree with you in the fact that Signify, I'm going to be the downer here. I don't think they're going to pull off the upset. But you know what we're going to see? We're going to see some really, really interesting
I
Counter-Strike.
gotta give people hope, man.
Interesting.
I don't give hope.
Interesting is one thing, but are we going to see good Counter-Strike from Signify? There's been, I think, a lot of talk, particularly about YB's in-game leadership back in the Optic India days, in ingesting a bit of structure into the Indian scene. Is that definitely the case?
I think his style is a little bit more different from what one would expect from like the typical EU player, because he realizes he's got like really good firepower here, right? And they are going to be the perpetual underdogs, especially against likes of an MVP, PK, or Greyhound, or these guys. So what they have here is an element of surprise. What they have here is trying to counter their opponents all the time, trying to kind of like be disruptive in the way they go about it. I know we don't have the map veto yet, but I'm expecting to see a map which MVP will be feeling a little uncomfortable on, a map where they can kind of catch them off guard, right? His style is not going to be very structured. His more like field base is going to be like, all right, guys, I have a feeling it's, you know, they're going to be probably going to be going B. So he might make some very curious decisions where they go for, let's say, a stack at a B bomb site or a stack at a bomb site. And you might be like, why are they doing that? And for him, it's all about kind of reading his opponents and kind of adapting his style to beat who is facing off against. So you're not going to see the structured style, but you're going to see a very free-flowing, but at the same time, there is a method behind the madness.
Thing is, since they're more of a newer team, I guess in a way they're not studied as much as maybe MVP is.
Yeah.
So I believe if they actually watch the demos back and they know how they play, they could just try to counter that. But you never know. If Signify has actually been studied as well by MVP, they could just try to play it up and try to surprise them. Maybe that can catch them a few rounds at least in the early game.
Yeah, but the problem would be there is nothing to study. Like, there are barely any demos available. Sure, they play a few scrims here and there, but for a team like this, if I was MVP, I'm just going to play it safe. I'm just going to go with a map I'm very comfortable on, just ban on your permabans, and I'm just going to stick with a map I'm comfortable on. And I think when it's a best of one, right? So you're not going to be seeing the best maps for either two teams. It's going to be kind of a middle-of-the-ground map.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that sort of a map, I think just the pedigree of the players and experience in MVP is just going to take them through.
I think it's going to be difficult as well for Signify to kind of counter-strike MVP or take a look at their VODs because, again, we talk about these roster changes. They've brought in 2 new players. Admittedly, HSK has played with MVP before, but this is a relatively new roster as far as things are concerned. Now, my question for Signify really in this one is, again, knowing that they're the underdogs, knowing that they're the team that realistically shouldn't win this matchup, where are they actually going to be able to find those advantages? How do they actually win this matchup? Or maybe even how do they get out of this group? Because it's not exactly an easy group to get out of.
I mean, I believe they can still catch them off guard. I mean, if they consider themselves as underdogs and they're sort of the dark horse maybe of the tournament, then considering this is the best of one, this is the best time for them to surprise them. So if they can just pull off some amazing things that you wouldn't expect of them for a team that's pretty new, just play a bit unpredictable, and a best of one, anything can happen. And for the main thing right now for them is just to get out of the group stage, and then they can start focusing on the more pressing matters, and which would happen at best of threes, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
That the map pool, I'm sure, is a little bit too weak for them, maybe probably by now. So just try to find the middle point and just try to catch them off guard. Hopefully, they might actually be able to get a few rounds or maybe even win the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, that is something which you want to do. The other team they're going to be playing later on is going to be Alpha Red. MVP, by the way, have played Alpha Red already off stage, and they thrashed them on train. It was 8-7 on the first half, with MVP winning 8 on the T side. So that was pretty much a done and dusted affair. Zine and Zeta just going off 47 frags between the two of them. So they're like just out aiming Alpha Red, which is a team. Thai teams are known for being really good aimers, right, Alfish?
Yeah, well, I mean, look. You're the expert here. I'm just the desk host.
Go on.
I have watched a lot of Thai CS, and I've actually been quite impressed with what you said, like the aim. And I mean, Thai CS in general right now is quite a different beast, right? It's very hard to say what's exactly going on with Thai CS. But generally speaking, that was a match I think that we all sort of expected MVP to win. I was even maybe a little surprised to see it get that close. But as you say, T-side start for MVP. You can kind of take from there what you will. Now, looking at this group in general, obviously Group A, MVP, Signify and Alpha Red. This is the first match that we'll get to see of it. Looks like we've got a bit of time to talk. So let's just think about this group in general. Is it so cut and dry as it's MVP and Signify, or is there sort of a thing in there for Alpha Red?
I think, no, I would say the two favorites are the MVP and Alpha Red. I'll be very honest about it. I think Signify, despite their initial showing where they surprised everyone earlier on, that was a long time ago. And I've seen a few of their online games here and there, and they've been very shaky. They've been struggling to, they keep winning, but they have close games. They still lose against some of the SCA teams. And the Thai teams, that's the thing. They're just a force of nature, and if you don't have your structure and your defaults in place, it's going to be a pain in the ass.
I think we're getting close to getting the map vetoes up on the screen. So let's just quickly chat about that. What are we expecting out of the map veto here?
The map vetoes, it's going to be for Signify. Yeah, I think Signify is just going to go and try and ban the maps MVPs are comfortable on. I'm just going to call it out right now. I think it's going to be Overpass.
Okay.
And the reason why is MVP are going to ban Cash, Dust2, and Mirage. I think these are the three most likely bans coming out from them. And then Signify is going to ban out Nuke, Train, and Inferno. You don't want to play Inferno against MVP, even though they don't pick it that much. They have a 6-1 record, this particular team, right? So I think it's going to be Overpass, and okay, it's going to be from the sides, right? So we have Cash, we have Nuke getting banned. Which makes sense. And then it's going to be Dust2 and Train. Dust2 is going to be banned probably by MVP, and Train's going to be banned by Signify. Oh, that's surprising. That's surprising. Because if Overpass is taken out of the picture, I think Inferno might come into play, and that is going to be quite painful.
Traditionally, MVP, I think, has always been the Inferno team, at least within Asia domestically.
Yeah.
Any team that goes up against them on
that
Infernos
is surprising. That is very surprising.
A scary prospect, but yeah, we see Inferno taken away there.
But
by
you know
MVP.
what? This is the cool thing. Like, if Signify can, like I said, they need to be real disruptive over here. So what I predicted for it to be Overpass was just looking at it logically speaking. But maybe they have something prepared for MVP. Maybe they're just going to like trying to catch MVP off guard, and maybe pick a map where MVP are like, all right, we're playing this. That's going to be a little surprising for them.
The problem is they probably expect what you predict as well. I mean, they probably expect the other team to choose Overpass. So I believe they just they banned that for a reason.
No, I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of Train if I'm Signify, because Train is... We just saw them dismantle Alpha Red, and Alpha Red likes playing Train, mind you, right? Signify haven't seen them much, and the problem with a map like Train, map like Nuke, is if you start on the... Let's say you start on the CD side. Great start, right? You lose a pistol round, you're 3 rounds down already. And for the Ts, you get 5 rounds on the T side, you are set, right? And MVP CD side is almost indomitable, right? And if MVP starts on the CD side and they just have, let's say, a 14-1 half, which is very much a possibility, you have no margin for error, no room for error. You lose a pistol round, you're done. You lose one crucial buy round, you're done. So it's a ballsy map pick. You know, they did.
They must have a reason for it, though.
They did bring bravado on this a few months back. That's a few months back, and
It's
that's
a different
bravado.
ball game as well.
And that's bravado as well. And this is MVP, and I know how they can play on Train. So, just looking at the map veto, I mean, kudos to these guys for being a little bit more ballsy, but I don't know, man.
I have to agree with you. I think Train's definitely looking like a strong map here for MVP. Now, I think there's definitely something to be said as well for MVP. You know, we see 2 AWPers in this roster. That was another question that we had about bringing in HSK when you've obviously got Zeta in there already. They've given the primary AWP role over to HSK, but on a map like Train, double AWP, you start the CT side here for MVP, this could be the game over.
Yeah, HSK. This is perfect. Like you said, like 2 ops on a map like Train. That's amazing, right? You have HSK towards inner. You have the Zeta just roaming around towards outer. They're just going to dismantle you. But Signify do have one ace up their sleeve, and this guy called Crazy Guy, Mr. Kong. This guy, I've seen him go off against some of the best teams in Europe back in the day, and I've seen him just like wreak havoc amongst the Asian teams as well. He can be the X factor, especially on this map. The second guy I want to keep an eye on, if you're a Signify fan, would be Deathmaker, right? He's a young kid. He's a guy not many people know about. You have like Marzel, who's regarded as the best player in the country right now. But keeping him aside, he's a usual suspect. Deathmaker, this guy's first bullet accuracy on the entry is a little uncanny. Like, this guy can open up sights, and he is going to be instrumental to like get some room, when on the T side especially, to make some room for his team to try and at least try to get the bomb done. Because MVP is going to be in your face. They're going to allow you to really try and execute or get out and do something. They're going to be very proactive on the CT side. So, like I said, it can go either way. But just based on what I just said right now, I'm still going to start with MVP. Not sure about you, Rami.
I honestly have to agree with you on everything. I don't believe that Signify really has a chance on Train.
Okay.
I would have went for Overpass.
Yeah.
But considering Alpha Red, I mean, you have to measure that result as well. So
yeah.
I believe if they're starting on the CT side or on T side.
I'm not sure about that. I think they have a knife round to decide that.
Okay.
I don't think it's who bans first, but I agree with you. Like, the Alpha Red showing for MVP just looks so convincing.
I think the knife round's really going to determine it.
The other
Definitely.
important thing about this is obviously MVP's already won their first game against Alpha Red. They win here. I mean, already they're kind of, in theory, a lock-in for going through to the semis. Unless the results of the group kind of go a little bit awry as to what we expect. But if MVP wins here, they're through safely. They're in first seed no matter what.
Yeah.
And then that puts Signify in a position where they have to win against Alpha Red, otherwise, or they're out of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. You have Alpha Red, you have MVP, you have Greyhound in the other bracket, and then of course you have Boot Dreamscape, who are looking very solid right now with this new lineup, right? So you are going to have to win every game over here. You really have no margin for error. You don't have much room to work with. And to be very honest, I think for Signify, the best chance to win, I know this sounds weird, but for them, beating MVP, I feel would be easier than beating Alpha Red. The reason being, MVP are more structured. You can kind of have an understanding the way they play. If they've done their homework, they should know how MVP play, how to counter it, right? And if they do it right, if all their star players start hitting the shots, they can't pull off the upset. Alpha Red is just pure chaos and left-clicking your heads. You don't really have a counter for that. And the Thai teams, they just out-aim you. And so if you don't, and I know for a fact Signify really haven't had much of a time to really have much of a boot camp or practice because YB and Crazy Guy had to go back to Germany and Vietnam to get their visas again. So they haven't had much time to practice. And we don't have that much time to practice on a map like Train. You don't have that fundamentals down, I wouldn't say fundamentals, more like your defaults down in place. A team like Alpha Red's just going to shred you to pieces. So I think this is their best chance to get the win.
I don't know. I think I sort of disagree in one point. Is that yeah, okay, they're structured, but then you understand how they play and you'll know how to maybe work around it. But when you're playing against an AIM team, as you kind of mentioned about Alpha Red, there are clear counters to that. The problem is the team is still way too new.
Yeah.
So if they're a bit of an older team and were more well practiced, then they can use their utility especially to counter an AIM-based team. AIM-based teams used to be such a big thing back in the day, but now structure is more important than aim in terms of the gameplay. Yeah, I mean, teams like Astralis clearly prove that.
Yeah.
So I believe this is actually maybe a bigger chance for them if they know how to counter MVP. We don't know that, though.
We don't know that. We're just assuming stuff. That's what we do on the desk.
Yeah.
We just make shit up as it goes.
Yeah, we've got time,
Basically
of course.
winging it. So.
Now, I mean, you bring up the point about the aim and the firepower and that kind of thing. I'm going to be honest. I've seen MVP literally just roll over teams with their aim. And that was before they've made these roster changes, right?
Yeah.
So now you've brought in HSK, you've brought in Stacks, and obviously we know what we're going to get out of Zion and Zeta in particular, those two star fraggers. I mean, that's a possibility, right, here against Signify. They literally are just going to run out, absolutely dome their heads, and that's game over from there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Look, I'm trying to be a little optimistic here, Jordan. You know, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer all the time.
Well, he doesn't want to give too many advantages, you know.
So here's
structure and aim, you can't just work with both.
See, here's the thing. MVP's the best team in this group.
Yep.
We all agree on that, right? They also have the best firepower in this group. Right now, they are going to go through. I'm almost guaranteed they're going to win this game right now. We're talking about who's going to go through the second, right? Like I said, despite them having the firepower and they have so much of experience as well, sometimes that could be a problem. Sometimes that could eat. We've seen it happen to some of the best teams in the world as well, right? It can affect you. You start losing a few rounds. Let's say Signify go off to a 8-0 start, for example, and they start keep breaking the economy and whatnot. That could be a problem for MVP. And maybe they could just crumble under pressure. I've seen that happen with Gosu. I started having MVP at the minors as well. Although, yes, they were playing against the Greyhound and Renegades and all these guys, but it is a possibility.
I mean, you have to counter as well that experience really matters. Like, for example, if MVP is winning a lot, or sorry, Signify is winning a lot, they might actually just start relaxing a bit, and that's an opportunity for MVP to get back, especially with the fact that they have so much more experience. So I think for now, they just need to sort of crack their emotions, at least in the beginning. If they can win a few rounds in the beginning and make MVP feel a bit more pressured, think, okay, now I'm losing more rounds. What should we do? We should be winning this team. We should be qualifying easy 16-0.
But have you seen? I'm sorry for cutting you off, but have you seen the Korean players? They have no emotions. They don't like emote. They calculate. They're just kind of like, all right, guys, it's not working
Asian
out.
thing generally, though?
Not really. If you look at the Southeast Asian teams, he would conquer.
You know what I love about MVP, right, is because obviously I cast a lot of the games from Australia. We're about 3 hours ahead of the Asia region in general. So when I'm starting casting for the Asian games, it's normally something like 9 p.m. at night. And all I want to do is go home. As soon as I see an MVP game, I'm like, great. This game's going to be over pretty quick. I'm going home soon. And I think that, again, is going to be the case here. And it kind of ties back into exactly what you said. Like, in a sense, they don't really care who they're going up against. I think they recognize that they're the best team, one of the best teams within Asia, certainly one of the best teams at this tournament, and they come in with absolutely no pressure. Yeah,
I think the only team that they would be like, all right, we got to beat this team would be Greyhound, right? The other side of the bracket.
Right.
Yeah.
And for MVP, they want to get that first seed, going out and face off against the second team in the other group. Because I'm just going to say it right now, Greyhound's going to win both their games convincingly. Dreamscape Boot are looking good right now, but it's still comparatively new. And they did have this small little land event that happened recently where they lost a couple of maps to a local Singaporean team. yeah, I don't want to read too much into that, but they are fallable right now, right?
Yep.
And then you have Global, who unfortunately are the weakest team in this tournament right now. So you would expect Greyhound to come up with the first seed, and you expect Boot Dreamscape to come in the second seed. So for you as MVP, you want to face Boot, not Greyhound early on.
Yeah.
So for them, this is about, all right, guys, just like wrap it up, go home, have some nice food, Indian food, not too spicy, then prep for tomorrow's game, and just get it done and dusted. For Signify, though, one thing I like about these guys, they have a style of CS which frustrates me. When like you're going to see crazy guy go for like triple repeats, which he should not be doing, but he's going to do that. It's going to frustrate me, but it's going to hit all the shots. And the thing with YB is, once players start get going, he just allows them the freedom to do whatever they want to do with a semblance of structure, and that makes for a very exciting style of CS. I don't want to see a team playing like just super safe. Like, all right, guys, MVP, we've got to play super default and play it safe and just play reactive. That is not going to work 10 times out of 10 against MVP right now. So I want to see some exciting CS. I want to see some little chaotic stuff, and that might be the winning ticket for these guys.
I'll just state the obvious as I've been doing so far. If Signify has a chance to win, I believe they just have to get under the skin of MVP.
Start off well early.
Yeah, work on their emotions. Because in terms of aim, in terms of structure, in terms of experience, MVP have all the checks listed.
Yep.
So at this point, I think all they need to do is try to win a few of the first few rounds. I believe the first few rounds are essential to this game. Not just because it's a best of one, but if you really want to get under the skin, then winning the first few rounds is definitely one way to do it, especially if it's on train. I mean, if they win CT side, if they win a knife round, go CT side, they already have an opportunity to get quite a few rounds there.
Which comes, that's when we start talking, I feel like, I just want to touch upon the economy, right? The new economy. We were speaking about it earlier on in the green room as well. I think on a map like Train especially, the economy is going to be a big factor. Now, what's the, if you want to condense a new economy into one sentence, it's basically the team who's losing doesn't get punished as much anymore, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're like having a massive loss streak, you just need that one round. You're gonna always have some semblance of money or economy to work with to buy guns and whatnot. And you just need, and for the CTs, unless you win, and bear in mind, if you lose one, even if you win rounds, if you lose like 3 or 4 players, and if you lose ops, and the city side economy is expensive as it is, you're not going to have money. The second you lose a round, you're going to get almost reset. And that's an opportunity for the T side to come back in. So that's, I think, going to be a worrying factor for whichever team's going to be on the CT side. So it's all about mind games, I feel. Like, if I was Signify, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Do I want to start on the CT side and get that confidence going? But, hey, if I lose 5 rounds, that's it. That's done and dusted. That happened to Alpha Red. Or do I want to start on the T side? Lesser pressure, get 4 rounds, get 5 rounds, and then start mounting the pressure back on MVP on the CT side. It's a kind of a mentality thing, I think.
The thing is, you talk about the economy as well, and the CT economy especially. Now, it's not just the economy that's changed, but also the play style of the world now. Everyone seems to like using the AUG, especially on a map like Train.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good map for an AUG. So the economy gets even harder to maintain because you have to spend that extra money for it. So I believe, there's that sort of losers benefits that we're getting more now than it used to be. CS was always about winning as many rounds as possible. And if you were to lose, if you win the round after, then you basically completely wiped out the economy of the enemy team.
Yeah.
Now it's a bit different than that. So I think if Signify is on a losing streak, as you mentioned, MVPs, such of a big favorite, then I believe that they still have an opportunity to come back at any moment. The problem with Train is that I find it a very structured map. So if you don't have the smokes, especially on the outside, I think it's going to be even tougher for them. I mean, MVP probably have all the things they needed. Yeah, okay, they've changed a few people here and there, but overall they're still more structured than may possibly Signify is.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add on to that, like, even though we say HSK coming back to MVP, bear in mind, HSK was an MVP PK. He went to Gosu, raised the level of that team single-handedly because he played with MVP guys. Now he's coming back with people who he has taught in Gosu how MVP plays. So it's not going to be much of a learning curve, so to speak. And speaking of experience, Zeph alone has more professional experience in the entirety of Signify as a unit put together. I mean, the guys were playing for donkey's years, right? So, like you said, they have everything going for them. They've been looking really good online as well. So for MVP, I don't think it's even a test, but it's more like, all right, guys, it's just another day in the office. Let's close this one out. And despite whatever we're talking, we're all talking about ifs and buts at the moment, like the pressure, the money. Maybe it might work out, maybe it might not work out. But to be very honest, end of the day, I think Signify just need to be very explosive. They need to have at least a very few executes in the back pocket. They need to be a little bit more mind gaming a little bit. And I really hope, looking at this train pick, they better have done their homework. They should have at least watched the previous game when they played against Alpha Red, and kind of like think things through, because this train pick means that they have decided this early on. It's not a surprise map that's coming in. So
I wouldn't surprise me if they actually start focusing on fast rounds rather than slow rounds.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned earlier that Alpha Red is more of an aim-based team. But if you're playing on train and you're just focusing on aim most, you're giving most of the advantage to the CTs.
Yeah.
Because they're already prepared and waiting for you. So I believe they need to start playing more of a fast-paced kind of game style. Just focus more on pop flashes and trying to get into the sides. Because as soon as they get into the sides, then structure doesn't really matter as much as... Yeah, okay, it does matter in terms of you have to use your crossfires, you have to cover your teammates, you have to find certain after planted positions, trading with your teammates. But in the same time, it's not as difficult as just simply, getting into the bomb site.
Yeah.
So I believe like if they play it slow, they're just playing in MVP's favor.
Yeah, but just to add on to that, right? Like if you're talking about aggressive Counter-Strike, which they need to show, MVP literally, that's all they play against in Asia. You look at the Chinese, okay, keeping Tyloo and VG aside, you have like Storm Riders, the ex-Mongolian guys, you have many, some of these like SC Absolute, for example, then you have a lot of Chinese teams and the Southeast Asian teams who, keeping the usual suspects aside, like Tyloo and VG are playing a much more higher level of CS right now compared to Asia, but the rest of them still have this heavy aim-based, extremely hyper-aggressive style of Counter-Strike, which is what MVP have been able to counter time and time again very, very convincingly. The only struggle against the likes of a Tyloo or a VG who are a step above right now, right? So, yeah, even though I do agree with you that aggressive CS might be what gives Signify the win, but even then, I think MVP are ready for it. They're just the better team, man.
So at the end of the day,
So MVP's going to win.
apparently.
Let's lock it in. All right. Look, guys, it seems like we've got a bit of time to talk, so let's just dial it back a little bit. Not necessarily, I think we've talked about this game to death, but we've still got a whole other group that's yet to play, or maybe is currently playing right now.
Yeah.
Greyhound, Boot, Global, I know you touched on them a little bit, Blair, but it kind of looks like this Group B actually, in my mind, looks a little stronger than Group A.
Group B would be this current group, right?
No,
No,
other group.
The other one.
This is Group A.
Yeah,
Greyhound, etc.
I personally feel that group's a little bit more easier overall. Cause if you're going to be on the desk on that, I'll tell you why. Because Global is, I'm sorry to say it.
I suppose,
they
in a sense, easier to figure out who's going through. But do you think that's a stronger group in terms of the teams that are in there?
On the teams, yes and no. Like I think Greyhound and MVP are like right there, right? I think Greyhound, on a good day, if they just come in like the way they used to playing, like the way they play the minors, I think they're a better team than MVP. Because MVP's not tested. We're just talking potential, right? But I think those two teams are kind of equal. I think Boot, Dreamscape are definitely better than Alpha Red right now. But if it comes to other two teams, Signify and Global, like we're having a discussion right now, Signify might be able to make it, right? But if you're on this desk right now talking about Global versus Greyhound or Global versus Boot Dreamscape matchup, I'll be like, no, it's not going to happen. So I think this group's actually a little bit more interesting that way.
At the same time, I believe that all the teams here are all trying to get that first place. Yeah, we can talk to death about getting the second, especially since you're talking about MVP and Greyhound being the top favorites. But at the same time, all the teams do not want to get second because they predict immediately they're going to face the best team of the other group.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Like, what does that leave for these teams that do actually end up coming in second place? I guess we're looking at Boot potentially up against MVP, which I think for Boot is a fairly scary prospect. And then whoever comes out from Group A, in theory, again, we're looking at Alpha Red up against Greyhound. I think both of those matches, once we get to those best of threes tomorrow, look fairly straightforward for the favored team.
Yeah, it does. I won't lie. I think the only surprising fact, like if Alpha Red's going to face off against Greyhound, or even Signify's going to face off against Greyhound, I don't see. I know like you're supposed to be the Aussie fanboy over here.
I don't want to be too biased.
But I'm going to be biased over here. I think Greyhound's going to beat whoever they face off against them. It's a best of three as well. It's highly unlikely they're going to get upset. On the other hand, for MVP, they're going to be facing off against the second place team, which would be, I think, Boot.
Yeah.
Boot MVP on LAN is going to be interesting. This current Boot lineup, first thing, Splash is finally performing. He's finally hitting his shots. He's finally being...
What do you mean finally?
He's always been on and off. He knows it. Nevin, like, I'm sorry,
just trying
Nevin.
to score some brownie points
For what?
with Splashkey.
All right.
I'm a big fan.
All right.
You already have brownie
I
points.
used to be a big fan. And by the way,
Whoa.
Splashy's been playing since he was like in the pro Singaporean since he was 13. He's
Yeah.
only 20 and he's been playing forever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really good. I think the biggest change for Dreamscape, which is great, is the fact that they finally managed to get Alex, who's their coach for the longest time, as an in-game leader. Now, he might not be the hard-franking in-game leader, but he knows Counter-Strike. He understands how to approach CS. And Boot is the one team in Southeast Asia who approach Counter-Strike from, unlike the hyper-aggressive all-aim style that you see from Thai teams or Indonesian teams. They're actually structured. They have an understanding of how to approach CS. And more importantly, Mr. Benkai is back from his service in the military, which is great because when he was playing for Dreamscape, the best map was Nuke. And they were almost unplayable in that map because this guy was like vintage get right on steroids. Just find his way somehow behind the scenes every single time. He left from military service for a year. They stopped playing Nuke. And now if you look at the recent maps they've been playing, they started playing Nuke again. They're looking pretty dominant on it. So just him coming back. Then you have Benkai. Then they picked up Davai, a Malaysian player. And I like this trend of, you know, different nationalities mixing and matching and trying to build a better team in Asia right now. And Davai is right now at least on paper, he's the best player from Malaysia. He is a star. He's an insane aimer. So if you look at that lineup, I think they can do more damage than Alpha Red can.
I mean, coming as from an expert, of course, from the Asian scene, like how do you compare him now compared to how he was before military service?
Benkai?
Yeah.
I haven't had an opportunity to watch many of his games, and it's mostly been online stuff, right? But he has been always like the X factor. Ever since he left for the military, Boot has really been on a downward spiral.
They lost some of that shine.
Yeah, they lost some of the shine, and now it's more like, oh, earlier it used to be like, yeah, these guys are going to get like top 4 in a minor or something like that. Now it's more like, are they going to get out of groups, right?
Yeah.
And then with this particular shakeup, it's a pretty big shakeup. You get Davai, this new star from Malaysia, then you pick up Benkai back again, and they made a big change in removing Impression and getting the coach to call, and I think it's looking good for them right now. Sure, they had that small little land which happened in Singapore, but I heard a lot of tech issues and whatnot. It was more like a BYOC thing happening. I don't want to read too much into that. But overall, the way they've been dominating SCA at the moment, it's looking pretty impressive.
I want to touch on a point that you just made a little bit earlier. It was a very brief one. You said Davai, the best player from Malaysia. Now, did we forget Kaze exists?
Yes, well, I mean, he's in the Chinese team right now, so it's fine. I'm forgiven. I'm forgiven.
Okay, that's the caveat. That's what I wanted to check. Now, again, we've had a fairly extensive discussion about Boot Dreamscape off air, but I think obviously something that we can talk about here as well. Like this previous Boot Dreamscape, we sort of almost always knew what we were really going to get, right? They seem to be fairly consistent, but the new Boot Dreamscape now with all these roster changes, is this like a team that can elevate themselves higher than the previous Boot Dreamscape? What's the baseline for this new Boot?
I completely agree. I think they will elevate themselves higher because the biggest problem they had Splashke, who was the potential star, who could really explode, but then he'll just not show up at times. Then you had Impression was an in-game leader who I think was really struggling as an in-game leader, and that was affecting his game as well. They had Benkai, the one true star in that team. They had this new kid called Bulbasaur they picked up, and he was actually standing in for them at the Face It minor, where he really shone through, and they're like, yeah, we're going to stick around with this guy. They kept him around. Now what they've done is they've taken out Impression. They got Benkai back, who was always a star player. Splash is looking good. Now you have Davai coming in, who's been, like I said, the second best player from Malaysia, keeping Kazi aside. He's a pure rifler, by the way, and he's a phenomenal player as well. And, of course, we finally have Alex as the in-game leader. So I think as a unit, this team is the better team right now.
Yeah, definitely looking good for Boot Dreamscape, but also looking good for our first game here. It's MVP PK up against Signify. Let's go over to our casters, DDK and James.
Thank you very much.
So this is anti-eco territory for MVP. They have 4 players alive at the moment. One sign got picked off pretty early, so they've got some cleaning up to do.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be kind of annoying here for Signify. So I guess are we replaying the... No, okay, all right. Okay, cool, we're good. So we've got the MAC-10s roaming around here, looking pretty easy for the MAC-10 to clean everything up. Obviously, that's what you want. Get the MAC-10 there. Put him in the front, James. Make that money. Get the bank. Get the value in there. And it's looking pretty clean so far from MVP. They've only lost 1 player, make it 2 now that YB's actually collected an AK-47. So that's fairly ideal. They've gone for the full save in this round, Signify. So they're looking to get the M4s in on the next round pretty much straight away. But usually the problem that you have if you go for the save on the second round is you don't really have any grenades. So getting that AK will ensure at least there's some extra grenades there. And YB can drop an M4 for a teammate. Or if he really wants to be a bit crazy, he could drop an AWP, James.
Absolutely. Lots of information on this HUD, which is really cool. I'm sure we'll get the game sound up shortly as well, so keep an eye out for that. I'm sure it'll be around the corner. So this is a buy round for both sides. We see those fancy AUGs coming out for Signify. Higher armor penetration than the M4A4s, although Ace has one of those as well. They'll be looking for the AWP. They don't have one just yet. Both these teams will need to secure their economy a little bit more. So let's see now what these teams have in mind. Got some aggressive positions being taken towards the Pop Dog main position by Deathmaker. And YB's lurking around a train. And it seems MVP may be looking for some aggression or an execute. So we'll see what they do with time. Signify is starting with just the one player towards the B-bomb site for now. That'll be Marzel. There's some harassment. And the teams are trying to make their way in, but it looks like Signify might be able to hold this map control for now.
There you go, Zeta on top of the blue train there, trying to see what he can find with that vantage point. Will go down to Deathmaker. Good hold coming in here so far for Signify. There's 2 players left for MVP, but they have got some position on this outer bomb site. HSK throwing the smoke go towards connector there, and the molly towards the old bomb. But looks like Marzel coming in at a very unfortunate timing will be able to take him out. So now down to Stacks. Still has to get the bomb planted, loses the 1 versus 1 to Deathmaker, and Signify pick up their first buy round. Looks like MVP wanted to kind of brute force their way in there, James, and that's a really good statement for Signify to immediately say, you know what, that's not on.
Yeah, I think it's a good test of the CT side for Signify to see how they deal with the executes, how they react when they see the smoke grenades flying over the top, the counter grenades and so on. But also as the rounds go forward, we need to see how they change their setup because they can't be predictable. So we had one player in the E-box with support from YB between E-box and Train, so we'll see if they continue. Now, Ace went aggressive towards IV in the previous round, and he's gone all the way, well, he's gone halfway through again. As you can see, just holding the corner there, so we'll see how that continues. But for now, there's another fast execute. So far, so good for Signify. Death's been taken out, Deathmaker's been traded, and now there are issues because MVP will swarm onto the sides.
Indeed, it's going to be a little bit awkward. Just the AK though, but now it's gone by E-box, so just the pistols left. A couple of Deagles in play, and we'll have to see if HSK can save this one, but no. He will be denied, and the defuse will come in there for Signify. So only losing 2 players, not too bad, but MVP, I think, considering what they had there, James, they'll be all right with the consolation bomb plant, the extra money in their hands there, $800 per player in addition. However, they will not really be able to buy here. They'll have to go for a half buy. But again, due to that bomb plant, they could afford some P250s, some grenades if they want to do something funky to keep the pressure on Signify's economy. You never want to allow the CD economy to get too out of control. You always want to find ways to keep the pressure up without hindering your ability to continually get the full buys in.
AWP has been collected by Signify. And around such as this, if you expect your team to be on eco, then sometimes people might pick up an SMG instead, just to limit some potential variance if a site gets rushed. But obviously there's nothing wrong with an AWP as well. So we'll see how Crazy Guy is able to activate with this. Deathmaker in a forward position now. So let's see if MVP go for the 2-man stack down the Pop Dog position. Right now they're just creeping towards the B-bomb site. Marzil's holding a Molotov out. Some will deploy immediately, some will just have a read of the situation. Tagging through the wall, drops that, and there's a nice shot from Crazy Guy. Going back for another one as well. That's a great start for Crazy Guy and Signify. 2 shots, 2 kills with the AWP. And that kind of disables the push a little bit for MVP. 3 players remain. They do have a flashbang on HSK, so perhaps they can do something.
They will flash Crazy Guy further back, but there's the reaction Incendiary, which will slow things down. Ryan actually forces his way through. Crazy Guy not expecting that. However, the trades will be in, and now it's just down to HSK. See if he can get something done, but he will be eliminated. And that's another round going there to Signify. And as you mentioned, James, Crazy Guy showing off the AWP. The matches that Blair was referring to in the Cluj-Napoca major qualifiers, I actually was casting those, and Crazy Guy, his AWP back then was incredible. Like, he had the most nutty flicks. It was a super exciting playstyle to watch. So after not casting for quite some time, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can deliver, especially in this match. Now he's got the AWP. But speaking of which, his opponents are now on a full buy once again, and right now looks like they're going for somewhat of a default. They're establishing basic map control, and that's not about fraggers. It's Zion through the smoke on Ivy. Picks off Ace immediately.
Yeah, some harassment from him. I don't think he expected a kill in that situation. It looks like Ace was trying to punish the tracers, but he ate the bullets at the same time. And now this could get very expensive for Signify. Risks being taken. They're pushing main and B at the same time. Well, they will get a kill into HSK. I don't know if the bomb was spotted, but it's not really a situation where Deathmaker wants to stand and hold it. He'll get traded out, and there are so many issues for Signify in this situation. Pushing essentially everything. Very, very risky. An unfortunate first pick. And Crazy Guy may have to take gambles as well. If he moves through Ivy, Sign is still holding with an off angle. This could still be recoverable for Signify, just based on the positions. If Signify have MVP move into the crosshairs of Crazy Guy, then who knows what could happen. He's reset his situation, moved over towards the B bomb site. So at this point, I think they'll probably be saving.
Yeah, not too much that they'll be able to accomplish. See, MVP have been looking around for quite some time, delaying the plant for a little bit. They could absolutely go and decide to go for the hunt, but we may have a gentleman's agreement just due to the fact that the money for MVP is really bad as well. They really need all 4 players to survive in this round, so they'll just have to hold their hands up and allow the AWP and Orc to stay into the next round for Signify. And around those weapons, Signify will be able to offer up a full buy. So MVP aren't done just yet. They need to win another round to break the money of Signify if they want to continue to string some T rounds together. But I'm curious what they'll go for so far, James. You know, we're still learning. It's been ages for me since I last saw MVP play on LAN. So looking forward to seeing what their T-side strategy book looks like. There we go. 3-3 is the score. MVP picking up a round. But this is a big one. Here, either Signify maintain control, keep the economy in a healthy state, or they have to save for a couple rounds. And MVP start to really build some huge momentum on this at the beginning of this first half.
Crazy Guy has got a forward spawn for the A bomb site. He could take some aggression somewhere, maybe towards the IV area, or he could have a look towards the Olofmeister position as well. And it seems it will be the former. He's got 2 players headed his way. There will be no flashbang, or there will actually. Oh, he's trapped now. Oh, he's in a lot of trouble. There's no way he escaped his position. Was half committed, had no support from any teammates, and this is showing issues for me in the CT side of Signify, because there's a lack of polish for sure on the CT side of Train. In a situation like that, you certainly want to have some support for an AWP going down Ivy. There's a number of ways you can do it, be it with a flashbang or have somebody holding a close angle while he holds a longer one. But to be making that play on his lonesome when the rest of his team have brought up and getting taken down for free like that, those are 2 rounds where someone's died Ivy. 2 very different fashions, but they need to do more Signify. Yeah,
and for MVP now, they can effectively they can decide between B and A. If they want to keep things simple and just try to run a set piece onto one of the 2 bomb sites, that's going to be a very effective way to capitalize in this instance on having a 5 versus 4. You don't need to sort of creep around the map, give up another 1v1, which could potentially, for the CTs, even things up. On the T side, the numbers advantage is a pretty big deal, and looks like MVP will go for an outer bomb site split. Pop Dog and Team Main as they force their way through behind the grenades. It'll be Deathmaker from atop the blue train to get a couple kills. That's not bad at all, but the trades come straight in from HSK, and MVP have the 3 versus 2. The bomb going down, but Ace, coming from Sandwich, looking to salvage things.
Oh, he pressed Q, and that's going to cost him his life. You've got to keep your gun out in those situations. You never know what's around the corner, and that might just be the round, and it will be. HSK trades for his teammate immediately, and that puts MVP in the lead. A close one, but they've broken the money for Signify. They're going to be on the eco now. Might not be for too long, however. We'll have to wait and see, but that is not an ideal situation. Really, it's like a moment of reassurance. People press Q just to make sure what the secondary weapon is, but then somebody pops out, you can't fire your gun. You can't fire your gun, you can't frag that. It's a problem.
That is a problem. It's a huge problem, because especially now the money has been broken for Signify. After that good start, MVP are now in control of the situation. However, there's not too much to really make things complicated for MVP. If they take things in a considered way, a diligent way, cross the T's, dot the I's and all of that, they should be fine here without losing more than a player or 2 at max, really. Shouldn't really expect more than that, but we have seen in the modern era of Counter-Strike Global Offensive that people are getting better and better with these deagles. However, there you go. MVP, they start to burst out into the outside positions, and as they move as a unit, seems like it's a bit too much for Signify to deal with. The nades really be very useful as well. Nice AK work there from inside, but the USP, hiding by Sandwich, has Ace and AK. Can he do anything else with this? Yes, he does. One more for him, and now 2 more players left. Considering that Zeph is very weak, this starts to get a little bit scary, but speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Zeph appearing from the pop dog position will calm things down. But they lost 3 players there. That's actually a pretty good amount of work from Signify to weaken the economy of MVP. And now Crazy Guy is back on the AWP, James. He's only got 2 kills so far. I'm expecting some more from him in the coming rounds.
Yeah, it's still early in this game of Train, so with Signify back on the bye, now they could try to limit the errors they've had around the IB position. And again, they need to find some more coordination with their chosen aggressions, especially with the output of the players that they have. Sign almost lining up a flashbang, but thinking better of it, maybe because of this smoke. Marzi was waiting for that flash. He went really wide with the peek there, spotted a player, and he has been taken out by a Sign. So again, we've got issues with Signify. The B-bomb site's being taken, and Crazy Guy, I mean, that might just be the round there, unless YB can get into the back of the site quickly. But there are 2 MVP players pushing through. They've got the entire B-bomb site. If YB goes down here, that's got to be the round at this point. They don't have enough map control. That's a big fight to take. And it's won by Diffmaker. That might actually keep them in this fight. Oh, Crazy Guy gets absolutely wrecked, but the trades continue. So 2 versus 2. This is doable, but it gets less so now. Diffmaker's on his own. He doesn't have a defuse kit, so he has really limited time to find 2 players. There's the first one. I think he shot him in the face, but Zeta will survive with 3 HP, and there's another round in the bag for MVP.
Yeah, crushing the buy round with a fast action towards the B-bomb side. It's cool to see that they just sped their pace up a lot there. You know, pacing's really important in Counter-Strike, going fast, going slow. It's a very simple thing, but it can make you quite unpredictable and therefore makes it a lot harder for the CTs to know which risks are the right risks to take. And Signify here, Science has struggled on preventing their opponents from getting through some of these choke points. And as you mentioned, James, they're finding they're finding value pretty much everywhere. The Ivy position has been a really big opening for MVP on a number of rounds, and they're not really having a problem getting out of the choke points. And that's kind of a big deal. On the CT side, you want to shut those choke points down. You want to prevent the T side from coordinating from multiple choke points at once. And so therefore you stagger the offense, and you really harm the T's ability to basically, in that sense, have good fights, favorable fights in moving into the bomb side. And MVP, they're looking like the better team so far, James, but how long will that continue?
Yeah, we'll have a quick tech pause here while one player reconnects to the server. Yeah, I think I really wonder at this point. I think basically from what we've seen on the CT side from Signify, I'm wondering why Train was allowed in over a Dust 2. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see how it plays out. Maybe they have some secret sauce on the T side. What are your thoughts, Dan? I mean,
sometimes it's as simple as, hey, we've been working on Train recently. The last week we had a bunch of really good scrims, on that map. Sometimes it's as simple as just that sort of emotional connection. We just had a bunch of good games there. We see that this does make vetoes, quite weird in some lands where you'll see, a really, top tier team, and they'll perhaps allow a map that's historically bad for them, and it maybe isn't their first or second or even third pick, go through just because they felt good in it recently. Something that's fairly an unquantifiable thing, but that's how the game is sometimes. If you feel good and you feel confident, sometimes that's enough. You don't have to be able to quantify it. So that might be one of the things that's at play here for Signify, or it could be the other one, James. It could be the case that they've been working on it, or they feel like they watched some games of MVP and they're like, you know what, we actually think that there's some leaks that we can exploit. So that's some potential reasons why they may have allowed it through.
Okay, everybody back on the server now. So we'll see what we will see. This will be an eco round for Signify. Pistols for them. MVP with about $4,000 to $6,000. That is a good situation for them. 6-3 right now. There's a quick restore actually of the rounds, and then we should be soon into it. There's the restore. Signer's 13 for 6 already, so yeah. He's he's laughing.
Yeah, he's having a good time of things. Speaking of which, for Signify, Deathmaker's the one that's at the top of the list, 11-7, not too bad. He's been having a lot of fun in the close positions towards T main, around the outer bomb site. And again, it can be a pretty high fragging position, and I would expect it to continue to be that way. Going into the bomb site can sometimes have more variance, the outer bomb site is, if you can make the outer bomb site work by just running those set pieces, you get the smokes down, you're able to escape those choke points, quickly it becomes very favorable if you're the team that has the better aim and generally is better at fighting. And it tends to really begin to snowball if you're able to bully the CT sides in that way. So we'll see if that's the case for MVP. I would love to see some fakes as well, James. I mean, you know, that's something that's kind of popular on the train as far as the strats go. There's a variety of ways to achieve that as well. You know, you can start to set expectation by, you know, you show that outer bomb site set piece, you know, throwing the smokes in the normal setup, you know, you go with it a few times, and then you know, one round you do those smokes, and you send 2 guys out, but you're actually, you know, heading over towards B with the bomb, and people overreact based on the conditioning that you've set up on your opponents, and they'll have terrible rotations as the B hit comes in. So it's a fun one on train. We'll see how complicated things will be for MVP. But if this is working, James, why fix it? Just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, good timing on the flashbang to move into the pop dog position. Bodes well for MVP. Little things like that give us an idea of the how meticulous they can be on this particular map. 30 seconds as they move into the A side. Pretty good timing. If anything goes wrong, there's time to correct it. The flank starts for Signify, but Pop Dog is still being contained by MVP, so this looks like a comfortable pick for them. Again, we've seen them win in this tournament already on train. And they'll soon move to 7 rounds. Signify looking to pick something up upon exit. Trying to catch MVP off guard as they move away from the bomb explosion. And let's see, this will be the 5th round lost in a row for Signify, so already a maximum loss bonus. They'll have all the bits and bobs they want in the next round, but it's up to them to make it work. Again, we've seen 2, I mean, I think the spray through the smoke towards Ivy was unlucky. I think the push through Ivy with the AWP was just not good enough. And then we saw an early pick towards the B bomb site. So I think Signify, they need to avoid the variance of the first 20 to 30 seconds in the round. If they can stop getting picked off early, then maybe they'll have a chance to win.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal on train. You just never really want that first guy to go down early. It gives the T so many options. You know, you have to tighten up your defense. It creates so many holes. It's just a huge problem for sure. And we get the secondary AWP coming in from Marzil. Maybe this can add something to the defense that was lacking. We'll have to see how that pans out. MVP, they had some great success with the fast pace, the slow pace. They've generally just been... Oh, we have a pick from Marzil, so that secondary AWP is going to pay off. He was actually towards the upper area in B. Finds that quick pick, a very common peek coming in from Marzil. As we'll see, MVP just starting to move into the B bomb side. They're walking through sidewalk. I don't think Signify have any idea. Now they spotted it. Now the rotation comes in, but will it be too late? Connector should be smoked off. There go the Molotovs. There go the smokes, the flashes. Marzil is isolated, and they're coming for him.
Great flash for Sign to get a pick. And again, Signify, I think at this point, these choke points at the back of the site of Suicide, unless Deathbreaker can get a duel, that's got to be the end of the round. If he can't run distraction from Connector, then I think they're just running into Suicide at this point. They are just a man down at the moment, and that's going to be retained as the trades are there. Back of the site. Okay, now it's 2 versus 1. Is there time? YB's the only person with the fuse kit, and he just got taken out. Crazy guy doesn't have a kit. I don't think he can really go for this, and indeed, he is going to move away from the site. So it seems MVP knows that Signify are playing just one person on the B bomb site. They see him upper, so they just play against that. It's a great mid-round call from MVP to react in that fashion, but now Signify have to change their CT setups, and that might be... I mean, that might force them to put 2 people towards B, or just have somebody lower B rather than upper, or make an aggressive play, for example, in A main, which I'm not sure we've seen quite yet on a buy round.
So I'll tell you something crazy, James.
Go for it.
After MVP took the bomb site in such a quick fashion, before the CT rotation was in, there were MVP still had 2 smokes remaining, and at no point during that post-spawn situation did they throw the smokes towards Connector or anything. I feel like they were really making things a lot easier for Signify than they had to be. They just dropped those smokes on Connector. It's impossible for the CT. So I was very surprised not to see the usage of the smokes there at all. Either way. Oh no. Wow, how does he get a kill from that? That is quite interesting. Yeah, that's a common spam against that wall. CTs love to shoulder peek that to try to be Safe gets some information, but it's very difficult, as you can see there, to not get absolutely wrecked and riddled by bullets. But it is an early round advantage, once again coming in from Signify. However, in the previous round, they were not able to convert that. Deathmaker being pressured slightly by the Molotov coming in from Zeta. Just making sure that the CTs are not close to the ladder. But there's no one to really punish Deathmaker from T-Main. And it seems as though Signify are making the correct read here, that it is likely going to be a B play at this point. They've got quite a lot of information. And they've got a good setup to defend. IB picks up one. Is there a smoke? No, they're just going to face it. And, well, they will get the entry. So 3v3 and the post plant for MVP.
Yeah, it seems that MVP are just happy to out-duel their opponents at the moment and have the superior position as well. There's a shot not quite working out, so Signify going for it once again. Down to the 2 versus 2. No kits on either of these players. There's Zeta, there he was, there he goes. And now it's HSK. He's got a smoke grenade, he's dropping it lower. Maybe to suggest he could be sneaking up behind it. There's a Molotov for the bomb itself. And again, with no defuse kit, that's actually a problem. Deathmaker spotted. The flashbang trying to force his way down again, HSK. Deathmaker with some pre-fire. Not quite going to work out. Crazy guy been holding the bomb. And there's a lovely flick from HSK. 9-3 for MVP.
That was some sexy stuff from HSK. What a save as well. You know, it's a really desperate situation. And still he maintains his calm. And looks absolutely killer in that situation. Beautiful stuff. 9-3. MVP on their T side, James. They are having a little bit too much success. I think Signify really off to a rough start. And if we consider the fact that they were able to, even despite losing the pistol, they were able to get off to a good start. They strung a couple rounds together. They haven't really seen any success since that point. And as you mentioned, MVP looked more than confident to go for these aim battles. And that is a scary sign. Going for the wallbang attempt there. Cheeky stuff from HSK. He's looking pretty on point so far today. And it's just the anti-eco once again. Signify not too much to work with it.
Yeah, MVP looking very ready for Train. So in that respect, I think things are going as they probably should at this present time. So it does raise into question the map pool for Signify at the moment. HSK has the angle to the right. His teammate can crab walk up, focusing on the left-hand side. And there's a peek for information. Crazy guy gets away with it, though. But does he go back? What is the reaction? We've got Signify rotating out of the B-bomb site towards A to try and catch these players, concentrate their efforts with these pistols. It's a 3-5 from YB, lining up the right flashbang. Crazy guy will have to fall back from the Molotov a little bit, I think. Now the bomb is just waiting in A main, and Signify are quite truly surrounded here. We've got signed by Old Bomb, Zeta, and HSK by Ivy, and the other two players are by A main. 30 seconds, don't want to run the clock down too much. Ace is still hanging around. Okay, it's getting sloppy now from MVP. The AWP's picked up. Bomb plant pressure, smoke towards Ivy, eats the flashbang, doesn't quite hit the mark there. And I think that was the best chance that's come and gone. 15 seconds left and the bomb is just now getting planted. That could have got much more messy, but it will be 10 rounds for MVP.
10 rounds on the T-side of Train. This is looking like it could be potentially a quick one, unless Signify are able to really wake up. Here they get the double AWP once again. Marzel did have some slight success with that AWP. I think it was the upper pick on the B-bomb side previously when he had it. However, they were not able to convert that round, which was the problem. It was a good response to just rush down lower ramp for MVP. That really did them in. And we'll see if there can be a difference here now as... Ooh, Deathmaker taking a double HE down to 11 points of health. That is pretty brutal. Nice HE placement coming in from MVP, showing that they know a thing or two about Train, James.
Absolutely. That has certainly been the case in a lot of these rounds so far. Signify back to one player on the B-bomb site. Marzel with the AWP trying to surprise them. Getting tagged a little bit. Nothing fatal from him. We've got some flashes over the top of main. That will compromise for these angles. Crazy guy trying to make a difference. Trying to get a first pick here from MVP. MVP just waiting at the moment. Quite spread out. Maybe looking for that early pick, and now it's not coming. This is a good sign for Signify. They have avoided losing a player early in this round, and MVP haven't really got through any choke points just yet.
Yeah, it's definitely a better look. They have 3 incendiaries and 2 smoke grenades left as well, so Signify holding on to some good utility. They would want to start throwing that utility around about now, because this is the kind of time when MVP really needs to start moving into a bomb site. So if you throw the utility now, if you're at Signify, delay MVP even more, they have no time to work with. And so here comes the push, and Signify have Crazy Guy connecting one shot at the very least, but Sign with the trade. Sign's been on point, and Zeph has created lots of space sources. Be bomb side HSK will be able to get that plant. And so things really working out so far here for MVP once again. And I got to say, James, again, Signify, they had ability to make things more complicated. They had the smoke, they had 2 smokes, 2 Molotovs, and they didn't throw them around the 30-second mark.
Yeah, maybe some tunnel vision on the choke points they were watching. You've got to be aware of the clock. It is your friend when you're on the CT side, at least before the bomb gets planted. And most of them will get wiped out as well. That leaves YB versus 4. And it seems he's got a fair chance of saving his weapon at the very least, but this has been a difficult CT half for Signify. Again, a number of rounds where they lost the player early. They kept people alive, they kept utility in that particular round, but maybe didn't have the best timing with it. And that's another round in the bag for MVP. We move into the last round of the first half, and we'll see what Signify are able to bring into this one. Most players have about $3,500, so that leaves them with limited options. With 2,900, you can buy a FAMAS and Kevlar, so they'll be able to afford a little more here and there. They've got a scout out on Crazy Guy, not a bad option to trade. He's going to be faster because HSK has an AWP.
Yes, he does. He's been really strong with it as well. It's been quite enjoyable watching him making some plays on the T side. Ooh, that looked very close, that wallbang attempt. Deathmaker looking to get flashed into team main, and he will be. And it's a brilliant position to hold on to. Can really make things complicated for a T side, especially if they aren't diligent. If it's not something that they run into a lot, it can be pretty sketchy. You got to make sure that you retake these positions later in the round. If you, as we can see here, start to focus 3 players towards Ivy. However, it could be the case that MVP may just try to push those 3 players through Ivy together. Sometimes teams would want to leave 1 player there and then rotate the other 2 back.
This cover's really bad because where right to ace is standing, they can actually peek. YB was near the bomb train. He could have been taken up if he stayed where he was with no cover from the back. Marsville has been spotted to the bomb site, so MVP trying to pull rotation, but I think the bomb might have been spotted towards Ivy now. Double Molotov towards Olofmeister, and Crazy Guy will get taken up. That leaves it in a 4 versus 2. Deathmaker hasn't been spotted just yet. He can cause a problem to the bomb planter, but there's still time to recover. That's a big second frag from him, looking for the 3rd one, but he can't escape to main.
Down to YB now as he starts to creep in, and Zeph and Zeta has no idea where they're waiting. Can have some good guesses. He has an incendiary, which he gets his kill. Oh, that's such a shame. It's a good effort, but 12-3 for MVP. They are really far ahead here, James, and they're about to move into the CT side, where surely they're going to feel very comfortable, regardless of their T-side performance.
Yeah, they're just so close to the victory. Sign is 21 for 9. That's a really big scoreline for him. Far ahead of everybody else, but Setter's on 11. Deathmaker's up there with 13 as well, so he's been putting in some work. Got some pictures of the crowd here in Mumbai. Hello to all of you guys. I've met a bunch of them today, really nice people today. And there's me and Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hello.
All right then. 3 rounds on the board for Signify. They're on the T side. YB's got some grenades and Molotov 2 flashes. Everybody else on Kevlar. No P250 to be seen on the T side. And it is 4 players with Kevlar for MVP. Zeph has a smoke and a diffuse kit, so we'll see if that comes into play. Signify appear to be heading towards B, or maybe for a split of the A side. There are 4 players in A for MVP, and 2 are heading towards Pop Dog. We'll see how brave they are feeling at the moment. 1 focusing on main, 1 focusing on Pop Dog. And flashbang. That's a great headshot from Crazy Guy. Needs to follow up though. Ace has been taken out in the meantime. And he might not get another opportunity at Zeta. They do have a Molotov though, and that might be a frag. There it is.
Deathmaker getting another one as well. Signify starting to pull ahead here, but it's a pistol round. Fortnite getting those headshots, and Zeph will find himself one, able to retreat back to the safety of the bomb train. This Crazy Guy, with the help of YB, will take down Zeph. Now just down to stacks. Can he find anything here? Coming in from the flank, The bomb is still dropped though, so this is a little bit awkward here for Signify because Stax gets the element of surprise, picks up one, there's 2 more to find, and it's going to be Deathmaker. Great round coming in from him. And that will be 4-12. It was Signify winning the second pistol.
That's a really big round for Signify. Now they can start their comeback. MVP unlikely to buy in this particular round, so Signify can build some money. They can get their 5th round on the board, keep MVP's money in a difficult situation. Ooh, are they going for a force buy? It looks like they are. MVP are buying up. They're feeling confident. HSK with the scout. They've got a UMP out on Zeph as well and a bunch of pistols on the rest. And this might be a surprise that Signify were not expecting. Moving fast into the A-bomb site. So far, so good. Since it's taken out, there goes Zeph as well. So Signify in the anti-force buy situation now have taken out 3 players and really muted what MVP are able to achieve in this round.
Absolutely, but there's still some damage to be done here from Stax and HSK, the Scout and the Deagle. Obviously very potent combination, and there's lots of players that are tagged up here, and now even more tagged. Ace taking one to the chest, and any damage here would be very valuable. But I do like this approach from MVP because, yeah, sure, they'll be force buying and unable to buy in the following rounds, but when they do get their first buy-in, they're going to have the AWPs, they're going to have the M4s, they're going to have all the utility that they want, everything fully to their disposal. And as, you know, the better team on train, that should put them in the best position to most consistently win rounds, James. So I think, you know, this makes a lot of sense. And there's a world where you win these rounds every so often.
Stax and HSK are going to be on eco with the rest of their team next round, so they'll hold on to the weapons. Their best chance to have an impact on this round has come and gone. So there's no need for further aggression, but that is a great test for Signify, a surprise force buy for MVP, and they pass with flying colors. So now they're looking good for a 6th round, as long as they're not too slow. The main danger in a round such as this is allowing HSK to get loads of tags with the scout. So you're left with 35 HP or so, and then the USPs can clean you up afterwards. The P250s, the Desert Eagles. So that is something you want to avoid for sure.
All right, well, see if they can do anything with the leftover weaponry here. MVP, we'll already see Signify just flashing, smoking their way forwards in the outer bomb site, but this could be beneficial. I mean, this is some good locations here for MVP to fight with those Deagles and Scouts and so on. However, nice work coming in from Deathmaker. He's really feeling it so far today for Signify, and it looks like they have completely neutered this attempt at damage from MVP, and now just 1 pistol left from Sign, and he is dead. So, moving into the following rounds, this is where we'll really start to see whether Signify can keep things together, because they'll be up against a full buy. You can see plenty of cash there for the MVP side. And I'm curious whether Signify are going to want to play, you know, a fast pace, you know, a scrappy style, get out to the outer bomb side, or if they'll be more slow, deliberate, try to get Crazy going to some picks. He does have an AWP, so they could invest some time in getting him some picks, but they'll go fast, and Zeph will get caught with some damage, but his teammates are covering it.
MVP with double the score of their opponents at the moment. Deathmaker holding a flashbang for Ace to peek. Very early HE from MVP. Normally those come in late for and potential execute from the T side. So there's maybe a wasted opportunity for MVP. But this is the aggression we were talking about in the first half. We're seeing it immediately from MVP. That's a lot of information for them. That might get them to rotate an extra player into the B-bomb site, although Signify look to be making inroads towards Ivy as well as the pop dog position. So they'd be in a good spot to split the B-bomb site, the A-bomb site, sorry. HSK going to spawn now, CC spawn to check Ivy pushes, and Marzil may be doing that. Lots of time for Signify as well, and they've got good position.
Yeah, they have. They haven't been able to deal with Zeph just yet. He could shut the house down. Marzil goes down towards Ivy. Crazy Guy must hit this shot onto Zeph. It's kind of a difficult one, but Zeph actually is attention distracted for the moment, and he gives up his position. Crazy Guy takes an easy one, and now things start to get a little bit sweaty here for MVP. As Stax could be the difference maker despite losing HSK towards Ivy. I don't think they know about him in the sandwich position. They sure as hell do now. Deathmaker with a trio of kills, but Sign has been having a good game so far, looking to equalize the situation. The bomb needs to go down. It's being planted right now. That means Sign, he knows he can peek. Doesn't get any information off the first one. Can he manage to clutch this? He has some information. Oh, well, that peek doesn't work out. Ace finds him. And Signify win a very critical round against the first buy of MVP.
That's a huge round for Signify. They put MVP on Eco once again. So it is cleanup time for Signify. But the next round will be dangerous because I assume MVP will have one, maybe even two AWPs. So that is to come. But for now, we've got the CZ75s being purchased and a lot of flashbangs, all things considered. So MVP may have a play in mind. It could be some action towards the A main area. There's certainly some grenades in that direction. But 3 players moving through B for MVP. Look at this aggression. There's no one here. There's no lurker for Signify. So they may not hear any of this. Nasty surprise there for Ace. He's only going to get 1 kill. That's so much position lost. A Molotov in A main. So Signify can't really go anywhere apart from Ivy. I don't know if they've been spotted really, because hardly anybody is on the A bomb site now for MVP. So this is getting really weird.
Oh dear, Sign able to trade that one towards T-Spawn, and now things are a little bit awkward. Zeph doesn't have anything but a CZ still so far. However, the bomb has not gone down just yet, so that does give Sign some time to work out what to do with this AK. He'll absolutely want to go down on his sword, I would imagine, in this round, considering the fact that they are buying next round regardless. And, well, it looks like they're moving to save, but in a situation like this, you can make a pretty strong argument to try to just get some damage in, try to find a way to get some exit kills, keep the economy of your opponents as in check as you possibly can. But having AK-47s is very nice on the CT side, James, so I don't blame them for holding on to them either.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good if you're opting for an M4A4 or even an AUG from range. The AK will be superior, just 1 bullet to the head and dead. All right then, round number 8 for Signify. They've won every round on the on this half so far, 5 rounds in a row and only 4 rounds behind now. So they've got a lot of momentum. And now the big buy comes out for MVP. The AWP and 2 AUGs will join the AK-40. We might see them make another play towards the main position. They have incendiaries as well, and Molotovs. So this is another important test for Signify if they are to continue their comeback. They're going to start with grenades in towards the A site. Presence above B. YB will keep MVP honest as far as main is concerned. And it's Sign's turn to have a look. Does he throw his molly? He does.
Ooh, they may just try to walk out upper. That's quite scary. YB with the pick towards the outside bomb site, and that might be quite confusing if the rotation is Sign, though he's dropped the bomb now. They know exactly what's going on. Can he stay alive in this position? 15 points of health, makes the play down sidewalk. This continuation spray, not quite finding what he wants, but his teammates now making the kills happen. Starting to spill through connector into that B bomb site to assist Sign. He stayed alive for a long time. I think he's done his job, but Ace doing his job with a quick double, and now down to Stacks in the back as he looks to find one, but he gets denied by Ace once again. What a round from him. Zeta starts to march in, but the bomb's not down just yet, so there's plenty of time for Zeta to try to find a kill, but he's very exposed up on this train. He's going to be so careful with this position. It's a very cool plant as well, and they're going to wrap around the back. I don't think he's got any idea. He is in so much trouble right now. A bit of spray into the smoke. Maybe he realizes, but not quickly enough. Really nice round there from Ace and YB.
6 rounds in a row for Signify, every round in this half so far. And once again, they put MVP on the pistols. People like Sign have got extra money though, 83.50. I wouldn't be surprised if he bought some kind of weapon. And there will be a pause, maybe just to figure it out. Zeph's got 63.50, so they might not want to completely ruin their money, but they might calculate that they have an extra buy if they do something funky here. So we'll have to wait and see. I would expect Sign to at least buy like an M4 and armor, because he could buy with his team next round regardless. Yeah, or he could drop maybe 3 scouts.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can work this, or you can just get the 1 AWP. Sometimes that's really cool because you can play it in a style where you get the 1 AWP, you know, your teammates can half buy around you, and sometimes the AWP will win you around, even just 1. And if you're in the wrong position, you can just try to save it. And that's something that's very viable as well. If you manage the money in a way where, because he has like 9K, he'll still be able to buy with his team in the following round. But they actually opt to go for something similar to that to get it's kind of a strange way to handle it, but we'll see if it works out. Some nade damage coming in. Zeph denied by Popdog. That's a shame, but the Deagle will pick up the slack as Stax tries to find his value towards the Ivy position. He has help as well. He's got HSK down there, and perhaps there's a world where Marzel gets taken advantage of, but behind that smoke for now, he's quite safe. Stax trying to bait that one. There's the trade. And it's a 2 versus 2, James. It's getting a little bit close for Signify.
See how Zeta, he just went past the angle. He didn't take that second fight because he doesn't have to. It doesn't necessarily favor him as he has no Kevlar. He wants to take these players by surprise, so he doesn't go back to the well in that respect. Moving towards the Olofmeister position now. He will have the element of surprise because once you come out here, there are a few angles to check, and there we go. Crazy Guy exposed to a bunch of places in the site, and Zeta gets another frag and then resets the situation again. Now he moves towards the hell position. He's seen the bomb, which means that HSK can flank. But where does Ace choose to go? Trying to keep an eye on things while finding the bomb. He's done that. But the net is closing. Looking for Zeta. Zeta starts to wonder what is going on as well because there's no sound cues anymore. Is he going to look the right way at the right time? He is. A crouch peek as well. And there's a surprise round for MVP. Again, half investment from them in that particular round. And they've stolen one away from Signify.
Yeah, and they are rich right now. I mean, as you mentioned, they were saving before, and now they get that beautiful chunk of cash that you get from winning by elimination, 32.50 by elimination. And they are in really good position at this point. Signify having to reach deep into their pockets to find themselves a way to buy here, and they will. WP on Crazy Guys still. They really need to rectify the situation quickly, though. Again, MVP onto 13 rounds now. They just need 3 more. Zeta once again. For the core kill last round, starts off the fragging this round with the first bloods, taking down YB. Desperation starting to set in, perhaps the quick push down ramp, not expecting an MVP, and that is the B bomb site there for Signify. And now they start to shut down the choke points. They activate the flank through Ivy as well. Things getting really difficult here now for MVP, and even worse, headshots raining in from Marzil. And now it's just 2 players left. Maybe not much they can do with this.
Yeah, this is a really huge round for Signify because it will be of massive impact to the MVP money. Marzel with a great flank there. And it was a nice response from Signify as well. I like the late round call there. They lost the player elsewhere. Okay, we're around a B bomb site. Let's just make the best of it, move in. And they did that with great success. 4 players look to survive for Signify. We'll see what the money looks like for MVP in the next round. But they have to start to get worried at this point. MVP looks pretty good on the first half, but this has been all Signify in the second. Only 1 round, a half by 1 by MVP, and now Signify make it to 10. 3 rounds away, much better money. Seem to be fragging really well with the AK-47s as well.
Lots of support for Signify in the crowd. Really want to see this comeback happen. Lots to discuss down, so it is a risky one, but as you can see, sometimes you get the frag. Catch a CT moving into a quick position by Popdog. However, this time it didn't turn into a frag, and Zeta now has the AWP. HSK giving that to him. He is the weak player. And HSK, he's the one that goes down. Seth in a trade setup, but it's not really panning out here for MVP. Stacks by the E-box position, has to reposition now. He's suddenly open, exposed from everywhere, picks the right angle to look at. This is kind of stressful as he has to look back to Ivy as well as he moves around and his entire team comes to A to support him. However, the bomb now, of course, making its way to B. So problems starting to arise, but perhaps MVP have figured that out there because the push from Stacks is revealing some good information as his teammates now know to rotate towards the B bomb site.
Signify need to move through this choke point before it's too late, and they are able to do that. Ace makes his way towards connector, but the MVP positions might surprise them. Oh, this HE could be a juicy one on YB as well. Leaves him on 40 HP, so not terrible. A side plant in a smoke grenade might not be expected. Sign is at the point of no return now. He's hiding in plain sight. Wants to start shooting, never mind. He'll get taken out. That leaves Stacks alone in a 1 versus 3 with no kit, and he does not feel like he wants to have any part of this. Signify moving to round number 11, just 2 rounds away behind MVP now.
Indeed, it's not looking too bad for Signify. Indeed, MVP is starting to struggle. And the one thing that's beneficial for them, as it was for Signify in the first half, is the new economy system here, because you don't get nearly as punished when you get reset. As we saw MVP get reset earlier, they still keep getting that money, keep getting those buys in. But Signify, 11th round on the board, only 2 away now from MVP, who had a crushingly strong first half. We thought that perhaps Signify were out of it moving into the second half with such a towering scoreline to deal with, but they've been handling it quite well. And MVP, what do they do from here?
Well, they still have the money to buy, but it's getting a little weaker in terms of utility. They've got a Faman out on sign, but HSK still has the AWP. I say still, but what impact has it had in this half? Not much. Deathmaker now tying sign for 24 frags. He's had a lot of multi-kills in this particular half, and he may need more for them to come out on top. Crazy Guy is searching around. There is a CT lurking close as well. You wonder who's going to have the right timing. It is a big risk for Zeta to peek into the A main position as well. If you're by Ivy as a CT with your back to the wall, looking down Ivy, you can be shot from A main in the legs at the very least. Well, here's the execute. So far, not so good for Signify. MVP delivering loads and loads of kills, and it's a 2 versus 5. So this is looking really problematic. It seems that MVP are not finished with this just yet.
Indeed, but Ace is still there in the mix to try to cause some problems and weaken the cash. Zeph right above him. I imagine he has no idea, but there comes the peak. Zeta, another quad kill coming out from Zeta. He's, in the first half, it was, a lot of it was about Sign and the damage he was doing with his entry fragging on that T side. But moving into the second half for MVP, Zeta's really shown his full colors and the breadth of his defensive skills on train. And MVP now 2 away from taking map number 1. It's been a scary game so far for them. Can they wipe out the money of Signify here? If they were to do so, I mean, this round could be the game. Because if MVP win it, Signify don't have anything left in the bank. So this is a really impactful round for MVP to get off to a good start, and for Signify also. And that's a great start. Sign and HSK both finding kills. A quick 5 versus 3. And Signify are in so much trouble.
Beautiful flashbang up top. Allowed his teammate to peek in front of it. A nice 1-2 punch from MVP. And indeed, Signify have got to turn something around, and that's a nice entry for them. Ivy taken away, but they still have to do more. Oh dear, the bomb has been dropped by A main. That's so much information. A 4 versus 2 as well, where you know one of the last 2 players is, roughly speaking. This is quite troublesome for Signify. MVP can post up on some defensive angles, trying to avoid Crazy Guy. There's one of them. And that leaves Ace alone now. So, do really wonder. This is a big issue for Signify. It's match point for MVP, and the money just isn't there for Signify. They can't really have a proper attack, but they may have a plan for this. Again, they did leave this map open in the late game of the veto, so it might be that they have some kind of fast execute prepared for a situation such as this.
Yeah, they certainly need something. They won't have the firepower to really pick their way into position, so the only thing that's left on a map like Train is utility. That's the only other way. We've seen teams try in the past to just try to buy up as much firepower as possible and sacrifice the utility, but it really just doesn't cut it against any team worth their salt on the CT side of Train. So I would imagine they will be filling up on a lot of grenades here. I think, going for those CZs, Tech 9s. You can maybe throw a Galil in there, or like one player. For example, Ace could afford AK armor, so perhaps you get Ace on the AK armor, but I don't think you really want too many more players opting for that. I just saw a drop of an AK-47 from Marzil, so he's taken an L, and he's going to be stuck on a Deagle and Kevlar. So we're seeing some helmets not being brought up here as well. It's really, really difficult for them, and obviously they've taken this tactical timeout to understand the best possible way to distribute the buy. And so there it is, a couple AKs, CZs, Deagles, 3, 4 smokes, a couple flashbangs, a couple HEs and a Molotov. That's what they got. That's what they have, James, to potentially or to try their best, to put their best effort into denying MVP a victory in this round.
What's crazy to me is that YB and Deathmaker, well, really Deathmaker, far above the rest of them, has been fragging a lot more than the others, who have been fragging as well, but I feel like he should have an AK in this situation, purely because he's been getting so many multi-frags. But look at this, they get cut to pieces, absolute pieces by MVP. 5 versus 2, and now it's Ace versus the World to keep his team in it, but that will be it. MVP win their match versus Signify 16-11. It was a good comeback for Signify in that second half. They won so many rounds in a row, but MVP were able to pull out an unlikely round with 2 people buying in what was essentially an eco round for them. And then late in the game, they broke the money for Signify in brutal fashion, and Signify just didn't have enough in the end for that final round.
Yeah, I agree with you that it was cool to see that Signify they had a lot of good calls and they were really doing a good job in recovering a lot of the deficit. But really their CT side, I mean, that was the unexpected result. I think I definitely see a world where they get a lot more rounds on their CT side, and we see a map where this is more competitive from that standpoint. And given the nature of how they found success on the T side, it does give me confidence that this train pick did make a lot of sense. It is a best of one though, so sometimes you miss a few fights, or you mess that up, and that can just really snowball, especially on a map like Train. So I get the veto. So in that sense, this was encouraging to me, but it did seem that MVP was, of course, the better team as expected here.
Yeah, I do think that Signify were unlucky, especially that shot through the smoke towards Ivy. It kind of was the first domino, and then it just kind of collapsed from there on the CT side. So maybe in another world they get more rounds on their CT side, but today it was not to be, and that's a big W for the MVP squad.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of these teams, or what the rest of these teams can deliver throughout this tournament. It's always so exciting. I think Crazy Guy, for example, I know he's capable of an enormous amount, but I don't think this is quite necessarily the map for him.
Yeah, again, we need to see more of different maps from Signify to see what exactly the map pool looks like at the moment and how many maps they are strong on. I think we might be ready for the analyst desk. I'm not sure if they are good to go. It seems they are, so over to you guys.
Cheers, boys. Yeah, an interesting game actually there, I felt. We were talking about that. We were saying, hey, look, MVP, they kind of got this one in spades, but of course, they do finish it off. Congratulations to MVP. They've basically topped the group now. But I think there was definitely something to be said there for Signify.
Yeah, it was heartwarming to a certain degree, showing the way they came back into it. But let's be honest, when you get 3 rounds on a CD side on Train, in this current meta, or in any meta of Counter-Strike ever since its inception, on Train especially, you're 9.9 times out of 10 not going to win the map, right?
Yeah.
Great comeback. I'll hand it to them. And Deathmaker, I told about this kid. He's a young unknown star in his team, and he really showed up. And I think it really helps it on the T side. YB, like I said earlier, as I alluded to, he lets his team do what they want to do, and you can see he was getting opening kills, like entering sites all on his lonesome. And when they started playing more proactively on the T side, like you said, when they were more explosive, they were catching MVP off guard. They were breaking the economy. But this was one round number 22. The score was 12-9. That won, I think, 6 rounds in a row on the T side, and they were steamrolling MVP. It was looking good, and then a loser round, a crucial round against, I think it was just Pistols for MVP. I think they had one gun. I could be mistaken there. And that round is what kind of decided MVP's going to win it out. Yes, they managed to win a couple of rounds after that, but by that time MVP, like you said, the mentality game comes into play, and MVP's like, all right, just close this one out. And they did it, and the final round was a pretty telling statement. They just won it very convincingly at the very end.
I mean, when I first originally saw the first few rounds, I thought, okay, it's a bit balanced here and there. I believe that maybe they still had a chance, but then it seemed very momentum-based the entire game. Like it was whoever was hitting their shots at the time. And sort of what I brought up earlier, it just seemed like it was all about disheartening MVP, in my opinion. So when they first originally won that first half, especially that round, they almost clutched it. Sorry, they lost a 3 versus 1 or something against one player, and I thought, okay, this is done, right? I actually thought it was going to be maybe a 10-5, maybe a 9-6, and then just after that, I thought, okay, it's done. And then switching over to that T side, I was like, okay, it'll be a bit too tough, I think, to really get that many rounds. Just as you said, doing that badly on their CT side, you'd think on the T side they're done.
Yeah.
But they just suddenly pulled it out of the bag, and I was like, okay, if they're pulling it out of the bag, then they might actually have a chance to win this. And MVP just weren't hitting their shots at all.
Yeah.
They just kept making you think, okay, they're already disheartened now. They actually have a chance. And it came down to that eco round, I believe.
Yeah, round number 22.
You want to bring up, I believe.
Yeah.
it's after that he couldn't really come back from that. And just as James said earlier, I just think it's unlucky.
Yeah, I would say so in a certain way altogether. Like I said, like on a map pick which you were comfortable, you wanted to play this map, and you get just 3 rounds on the CT side. It should never have happened. Like James said, in another universe, in a parallel universe out there, maybe they would have won, forget like 7, 8 rounds. If it just won 5 rounds, if HSK hadn't got those 2 clutches, he got 2 clutches, by the way, only 2 players who have like clutches in that entire game. 2 clutches for HSK. They only had 3 rounds on their CT side, and that round number 22 where they lost to Pistols. If those 3 things hadn't happened, this could have been the upset of the tournament so far, right? And could have been, could have, would have, should have, but unfortunately MVP finally did manage
Could have been
to
#1 in the group.
Yeah.
And man, have you heard that crowd?
Yeah, that's definitely something we need to talk about as well. I mean, obviously when Signify walked on stage, we kind of got a bit of a taste test for that, but I think it was pretty cool to see, obviously, the Indian fans getting behind Signify. We do have Global and Boot coming up next as well, so I'm hoping to see much the same when Global's playing, but is this sort of what you expected? I mean, I think you sort of told us, you know, from some of the previous events here in India, the fans are actually quite excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was in DreamHack Mumbai where it was really, really impressive how loud the crowd was. And Mumbai, I think, has always been kind of the esports capital of this country. So I'm not too surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we've had a bit of a chat. It's been fun, but you're not all here to have a look at us. Let's go ahead and have a look at the upcoming video.
In this game, you have to blow the balloon, and whoever knocks out most cups in 1 minute wins the game.
Yeah, I'm really confident right now and I can beat everyone.
Well, a little bit of fun there for MVP, and obviously they're having a bit of fun today as well, managing to make their way out of the group first seed. I'm actually a little disappointed we didn't get to play that game. Kind of looked like some...
That looked like fun, actually.
Yeah.
I've never even tried that game.
Quite
Didn't even know
frankly,
it
I think I would have
existed,
won,
really.
by the way, just putting it out there.
I mean, you got good lungs, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. I just want to
Definitely
touch...
not us.
Definitely not me. Definitely not me. But just to excuse, I'm joking here. But
Wouldn't have been good at that game.
Speak
yeah,
of the
but
devil.
just like MVP, right? But they did manage to pull through. But if I'm Alpha Red right now,
That's right.
I'm going to be a little worried.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, considering how badly they got beaten, I mean, now you're coming to this event thinking, okay, we might at least get second.
Yeah.
That was their hope.
Yeah.
But now after Signify showing how good they were on train, you must wonder how good they are on other maps.
Yeah, and just to touch upon that, it's not just about them mounting the comeback. The thing is, when you're 12-3 down in train, and then you're going to be playing this, the T side, most teams would be like, yeah, it's not going to happen, right? But the fact that they showed a lot of mental fortitude, which is something which you don't expect to see from a young team. The thing is, YB is pretty experienced. He's been playing for a long time in Germany and whatnot. Crazy Guy has played at some of the bigger... He's played the bigger stages than anyone else on his team as well. Then you have Ace, who's actually been playing for quite a while in the scene. He's actually a major player, by the way. He did play ESL 1 Cologne 2014 with Team Wolf.
Oh.
So he has played...
It's been a while.
He has some experience under his belt as well. Yeah, didn't do much, but, you know, that experience does count. So when you have players like Deathmaker, and Marcel is, like, perhaps the most cold-blooded guy in that team. And he doesn't care. He just goes and is like, yeah, I'm just going to wreck everyone, right? So Deathmaker, even though he might be the young kid, it might be unexperienced, and might be feeling a little nervous, when you have these players with you, we're telling you, doesn't matter if it's like 14-1 down and 12-3 down, we can make the comeback happen. I think that's a very good sign for this team, and that's something that Alpha Red might have to be wary of.
Now, I have a small question for you, right? You said earlier that Alpha Red is actually very comfortable on train.
Yeah.
And they did lose against MVP, but now, after seeing Signify as well play on train, do you think that would be a good choice for them, or you think they should choose something else?
For whom? For Alpha
For Alpha Red.
No, I think they have a better map pool than Signify does. So I think they went with Train because obviously MVP have a much broader map pool,
Yeah.
right? So here, I don't think they want to go with Train because some of the way they play Train is something which is too obvious. You can see the flaws they had. I don't think they have enough time to fix all the small little things. And likewise with Signify as well. I think they showed all they had on their T side, especially the CD side against MVP.
Yeah.
They needed everything they need. They did everything they could to take it to 11 rounds. And now, I don't think neither of these two teams will want to play Train. So I think we're going to definitely see a different map.
Possibly
Again,
Overpass.
Possibly Overpass. Again, I still don't know what Signify's map pool is, so anything could pretty much come up.
Let's talk a little bit about MVP now as well. Again, we've still got that match between Alpha Red and between Signify to decide how Group A sort of really pans out. But topping their group, that's the expected result for MVP. Maybe a little bit of a surprise that they did actually get pushed that far from Signify. I mean, is that kind of raise some concerns now heading into the semi-finals, especially against a team, again, we expect it to be Boot, that it comes out in second from Group B.
Yeah.
And I would probably put Boot a little bit above Signify. So I think that maybe is a problem.
Yeah, that could be
potentially
a
for
problem.
MVP here.
But also, you do know how Boot play. You have more information to work with. You have experience. I think they played against each other recently as well.
They did. And Boot won, by the way, 2-0.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that was a big upset. So I think Boot's got to be a much more tougher opponent. But at the same time, I think MVP will be more prepared. And bear in mind, Boot have always struggled on LAN. They've always had this problem. I don't want to call them onliners because I know they can play on LAN as well. And MVP, on the other hand, like I said, like doesn't matter what happens, they're always able to. When they lose logically. They lose to the better team. They lose because they made mistakes. Boot, on the other hand, they just sometimes just like spiral out of control. They don't know what to do, right? And it's a best of 3. I think it's going to be a revenge game for MVP. I'm still thinking like Greyhound's going to come out on top and Boot's going to come out second from that group. Really think that's going to be the case. And I think for MVP, it's going to be a revenge game. And I still think they can take it. Yeah, they're going to go back and just kind of look at what went wrong over here, especially on that CD side of theirs. But this is a team who knows how to fix things real quick.
Problem is, considering the seeding, they might not even play each other. You're talking about Boot and Signify, right? In terms of their level. So that would be a really good playoff match. But
well, I mean, yeah,
considering the seeding.
you would assume both of those teams, if they were to make it through the group, would come in second, in which case they would not face each other. Unless both of them got to the final,
now,
which I think is...
that's a miracle talk as well.
Yeah, a bit of a ludicrous...
Yeah, that's very much...
Well, actually, after this match,
well,
you never know.
The thing is, though, like, right, again, for games like this, to me, it always strikes me as a little interesting because, right, we got close, but let's say in a world where Signify gets 5 or 6 rounds on that first half, does MVP really even let it get that close? Like, I almost feel like they just sort of knuckle down. They say, hey, boys, let's not let this get too far ahead of ourselves. You know, it's hypotheticals, obviously.
Yeah.
But the ripple effect, I don't think necessarily goes the way that you expect it to. I don't think you say, oh, they get 2 more rounds on the T side, therefore they get 2 more rounds overall, and they maybe make it to overtime or something like that. I think MVP just shuts down shop and says, hey, we're cleaning this up straight up.
I mean, I think the pressure really got to them that match. I mean, they were meant to be the favorites in that previous match.
Right.
So you think, okay, this is their map to lose. So when they started losing rounds over and over and over, the pressure started really getting to them. At least that's what I believe. And then as soon as they really paused and started to think about it, not paused in physically, but themselves, they actually reset everything, especially once they won that eco round. I believe that really hyped them up to actually complete the game. Now that they know that they have the potential of losing, I think their focus is going to be at least 110% the next game. So they might have left quite a few rounds slip here, but I don't think that'll happen again.
And also, just to touch upon that, like we talk about how Signify, got a little unlucky. At the same time, I think they got pretty lucky on the T side. There were so many moments where Deathmaker and Mars were going for plays, where they were walking into crosshairs, but for some reason, MVP were not hitting the shots like you alluded to earlier, right? They were missing some basic shots. They had the AUGs, they had all the right guns, but Marzel and Deathmaker just hitting some really nutty shots, and even a couple of scenarios with 3v5. Where in a 3v5 where MVP have the advantage, they rarely lose rounds like that. But they lost a 3v5, and like I think they kept all 3 players alive for Signify as well. That's very uncharacteristic of MVP. So I think it could be nerves. It could be maybe they're just not feeling it. Something just went a little cold here and there. But I don't see MVP struggling, especially in a best of 3 in this tournament, unless it's Greyhound.
I've also sort of felt like MVP traditionally have been fairly slow starters. You know, when you look at qualifiers for bigger tournaments, some of their early games, they'll start off, they'll lose a map here or there, they'll win the game 2-1 or something. But in some cases, even they get knocked down into that lower bracket, you always see them come through to the final, even when they have a map disadvantage in those best of fives, whatever, they still seem to have a very, very good chance of actually making it through that qualifier. So again, maybe it's just a case here of MVP starting slowly, getting used to the circumstances, getting used to the venue, tournament,
I mean,
all that sort of stuff.
to think about it, during that momentum loss that they were losing so many rounds in a row, we noticed a lot of mistakes being made. I mean, we sat together and sort of talked about it a few of the times. There's one part where they actually tried to go through to, you know, the ladder room, and they don't even go in with any flashes.
Yeah,
nothing.
just dry drops, yeah.
Just dry drops. And the T's are already waiting inside there. You know what I mean? They're already waiting, and you're just going in without any pop flashes, nothing. And he just immediately goes down, and it's already a 4v5 at that point.
Yeah.
And then his teammate tries to go and help, and then he also dies.
With
Then
no
becomes
trades,
a
nothing,
5. Yeah, exactly. And then it becomes a 5 versus 3. I believe he did get 1, but still they lost 2 in the process.
Yeah, not a good trade at all.
Not a good trade at all.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I felt like they made just way too many mistakes throughout that half at least. I mean, on their T side, of course, they've done really well. Otherwise,
Yeah, agreed.
All right, guys, that's game number 1 done and dusted. MVP obviously through Group A in first place. We've still got one more game of Counter-Strike coming up tonight. It's Global up against Boot. We'll go to a break. Don't go anywhere.